恭敬大德圣听，为此法会，赐一切众生精算妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss, and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto sucheto ye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good-knowing advisors, Amitabha. Today we are having a Q&A session instead because because I don't have time to prepare the slides. So not only am I going to start off by asking if anyone has any questions, but we will stay there until you all have questions. I do have some questions. Can you all see my screen? Just want to confirm.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So questions. We have so far 4 questions, but let's see what other questions anyone may have.
I have a question, Fa Shi.
Yes. Yes.
You posted in the today that they're having the Bodhisattva precepts, the precepts for the deceased, and the transmission of 42 hands and eyes. Is it?
Eyes. Yes.
Okay. What is the criteria for one to be having the transmission for the 42 eyes? Is there any criteria, or anyone can just go
Okay,
and get
so
the transmission?
there's an application process that people need to apply for. Let me see, for the Bodhisattva precepts, for the Bodhisattva precepts as well as the 42 hands and eyes, there are certain conditions that need to be met before you can qualify. And I think the 42 hands and eyes are a bit more strict. You need a branch or CDTB, or I think a monastic to approve or something. I'm not too clear about it because I'm not part of the administrative process. Yeah. So yes, there are some details that need to be fulfilled. Is that
Okay. What about the Bodhisattva precepts?
Yeah, same. Bodhisattva precepts, there are some conditions. I don't know what they are because it's been some time since because my experience with I took the Bodhisattva precepts maybe 13 years ago, so I don't remember. I think you have to have taken refuge with Shifu, at least for the 42 hands and eyes, I think. Yeah, you need to have held the 5 precepts. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, sorry, I can't give you more. Yeah. Okay, anyone else with any questions to add?
No, yeah. Then another question is, assuming if you meet all the criteria for the transmission of the 42 hands, what is the purpose of wanting to have such a transmission?
If you have to ask, then then what is the purpose? Okay, maybe let me type this up. What are the 42 hands and eyes? What is the purpose of the 42 hands and eyes? Okay. All right. Who else? Anyone else? No, not even Ron. Okay, where's Ron? I thought Ron signed on, and then I thought I saw his name. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Okay. No other questions for now? Okay, then maybe we'll just go through the list. Okay, so the first question I received is which sutra, which sutra to recite for someone who is undergoing a mental or physical illness. Okay, for that, you have to understand a bit about daily practice. If you come to a DRBA monastery, okay, apparently other monasteries are different. But if you come to a DRBA monastery, what happens is in the morning, we will recite Medicine Master Buddha's name, as well as part of the recitation, we recite the mantra, Medicine Master Buddha mantra. And as we circumambulate the Buddha hall, excuse me, we recite Medicine Master Buddha. And then in the late morning, for lunchtime at 10:30 at our meal offering, we, on our way to the dining hall, we recite Shakyamuni Buddha's name. Okay. And then in the evening, at the evening ceremony, as we circumambulate the Buddha hall, we recite Amitabha Buddha's name. Excuse me, just let me drink some water. Okay, so according to Shofu, okay, before I say that, for living beings who are not yet sages, at the very least, if you are not a first stream enterer, first stage arhat, which is a stream enterer and beyond, You could say that living beings all suffer from some form of mental illness. We are all ignorant, and in our ignorance, we take what is false to be real, and our skandas being distort the world around us. So you could say that we all have mental illness from the point of view of people who are enlightened or people who have awakened. They see living beings as dreaming. It's just like we are dreaming. So coming back to our ceremonies, according to Shufu says that we have the living beings in this period. Our affinities are strongest with Amitabha Buddha. That means Amitabha Buddha has, as far as we are concerned, Amitabha Buddha has tried has been closest to us in terms of trying to steer us towards awakening. And then Shufu says the second Buddha we have the most affinity with is Medicine Master Buddha. And I guess the third Buddha would be our historical Buddha, which is Shakyamuni Buddha. So Shufu says we recite Medicine Master Buddha in the morning. Why? Is because one, to be safe from disasters and enjoy a long life. And secondly, is to emulate the vows of Medicine Master Buddha, because he quells disasters and lengthens life. So Shufu says this gives us the fresh, youthful energy of dawn, a vitality, says like that of trees reviving after a drought, or spring bubbling from the ground. Shufu says. So, and Shufu says in the morning, the fire of our life burns brightly. In other words, our chi is very strong in the morning. At 4 a.m. is the optimum time for chi. So Medicine Master Buddha is for health, and health is not just physical health, but from a mental point of view as well. Because the Dharma, the Buddha, the metaphor, if you remember from the last few classes, the metaphor is the Buddha is the doctor and the Dharma is the medicine. So it's a medicine for both mental and physical illness. So your question, let me see. I can't remember who asked this question. Was it Peggy? Which sutra to recite for people with mental or physical illness? Well, basically all sutras will work, but because of the, because of the way the sutra is worded, it invokes certain things. It helps us put ourselves in the right place of mind. So if you ask me, it would be the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra or the Medicine Master Buddha Mantra. And associated with the sutra and Medicine Master Buddha are other practices as well. But the short answer to your question would be Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. Some people will say the Great Compassion Mantra, for example. It depends on their affinities and how they feel. Okay. All right. So so we have Medicine Master Buddha for dealing with afflictions, which is mental illness, and then physical illness. Okay. Then in the afternoon, we recite Shakyamuni Buddha because Shufu says it is because of Shakyamuni Buddha that we have all this, that we have the sutras, that we have the lineage of patriarchs, that we are actually aware of the Dharma. So in order to show our gratitude to Shakyamuni Buddha, not only do we practice, but we also study the sutras. And then in the evening is Amitabha Buddha, because Shufu says our thoughts return to the land of the ultimate bliss because we should vow to be reborn in the land of ultimate bliss. In other words, we want to purify ourselves. We want to go to a place where the three evil paths do not exist. What are the three evil paths? The three evil paths is the hell realm, the animal realm, and the realm of hungry ghosts. You do not want to be born in those three realms. How do you get to be born in those three realms? When your mental illness gets so bad that you don't think about other people, you're very, very selfish, you only think of yourself, to the extent that you harm people, you treat them as less than human, then that's the world that you create for yourself. So at night, that's where we wish to be reborn. Okay. And then we also have, for example, Earth Store Bodhisattva, who we recite Earth Store Sutra for people who have passed on. So if we want to look at life in kind of, you want to segment Buddhist, maybe I'm not sure life is that, but that's where the different Buddhas and Earth Store Bodhisattva slot in, and then there's Guanyin Bodhisattva for compassion, for our daily, how we treat people, how we treat ourselves. We can look to Guanyin Bodhisattva for that. Okay. All right. One question down. Any more questions? Anyone want to bring up? So Ron, I call on you, and then I think you disconnected for a while.
Sure, I'm sorry about that, but all of a sudden I lost power and everything shut down, so I had to reboot everything. So I'm sorry about that.
No, I mean, why are you apologizing? Okay, do you have any questions?
Well, you know what, I wanted to. You were talking at that time when my power fail was about what you were giving the reasons for why you should recite in the morning. Anyway, I found that I just wanted to comment that in the recitation handbook, in the beginning, actually, there is a few pages that talk about first the morning ceremony, the benefits of reciting the morning ceremony, and then also the reason why just like you mentioned about reciting the evening ceremony, but it has much more stuff in there. So I just want to mention that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So if anyone wants to know more, there's a preface written by let me see who wrote it. National Master Yi Lin, who died in 1676 from the Qing dynasty. In the first few pages of our DRBA recitation handbook, he talks about why we do the morning and the evening recitation. Yeah, but when it comes to affinities with, say, Shakyamuni Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Medicine Master Buddha, that came from Shufu. Yeah. Okay. So I'm surprised Ron doesn't have a question, but I'm sure maybe as we carry on, you all will think of something to ask. Okay. The second question that we have is a question about, are the number of beings, or rather Buddhas, finite in the Dharma realm? Are they fixed? Okay, so this is actually a big question, because there is a big assumption that is made when a question like this is asked. And this assumption that is made is wrong. It's a wrong assumption, but we all make this assumption. Okay, what is the assumption? It comes from the mistaken assumption that there is a self. Okay, we think that there is a self. Therefore, we make this assumption. We look at we see beings as individual beings. Okay, so this is a bit tricky. I'm not sure if I have the kung fu to pull it off without confusing myself and everyone else along with me, but I'll try. Okay, and then so if I'm not clear or not making sense, please interrupt me. Okay, let me see where to start. Okay, we as human beings, we don't have to go into living beings yet, because that gets very complicated. Or at least to me, okay, as human beings, okay, who are we? We are our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Okay, those make us us. Okay, so our body and our thoughts, in other words. And our body and our thoughts enable us to measure the world around us. So they determine what kind of world we live in. All right. These are also known as the five skandas or the five aggregates. Sometimes they are broken down into the 18 realms. Okay, if you see 18 realms, it means the eye, then forms that the eyes will see, or light. You want to be scientific, you can say it's light. And when the two combine, you get the eye consciousness. So when you have your six senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and then the mind, with their corresponding six sense objects, and then when they have contact, arises another six set of the consciousness. So you get the 18 realms. Sometimes they talk about 12, sometimes they talk about 6. By all means, the same thing. The five skandhas, the five aggregates, 18 realms, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, they talk about the same, which is what it means to be alive. All right? Okay. Because we do not understand how they all work. Out of ignorance, we assume that we belong, that we are made up of the five aggregates, that the five skandhas represent who we are. So we get attached to the five skandhas. And the moment we get attached to the five skandhas, we open ourselves up to all forms of suffering. Why? Because the five skandhas are impermanent. They are not to be trusted. They cannot, they do not remain. And they are also conditioned. They are not independent objects. They are compounded. They are made up of other things. So it is like holding on. Say you are drowning and you're holding on to something for dear life, but that thing that you are holding on will eventually dissolve in the water, which is not what you want, which will bring you grief. There's no satisfaction in holding on to something that is, going to melt, and then you have to look for something else again, look for something else again. So by making this fundamental mistake of thinking or identifying with the skandhas, we attach to them. Okay. But it is very hard to not do that because we have no other choice. In our ignorance, because we're not awakened, we have no other frame of reference for what it means to exist. So this is the metaphor of a dream works really well. If you are dreaming, okay, and someone says that, hey, you're not really using your eyes, your ears, your nose, you're just dreaming. This is all not real. Even the body that you have, is, it's not you. But in our confused state, in our dream, because in our dream, we don't remember what it is like to be awake. So we have no other frame of reference. In our dream, we just think that's it. This is it. So we cannot comprehend what it means to be awake when we're dreaming, right? Same thing. Right now, we cannot comprehend a different form of existence other than not being attached to our five skandhas. So because of this mistaken identity of who we are, the Buddha calls it not self. Okay, not no self, all right? Not self. So what the Buddha points out is what you think is the self is not the self. So Shufu says this is people mistaking fish eyes for pearls, or that Shufu uses the metaphor. It says when you're sleeping at night and then a thief comes to rob you of your valuables at night, but you think it's your son, and then you continue sleeping. So you mistake a robber for your son. Shufu says that. So that's what we do. So when we have the mistaken idea of a who or a self or a person, then questions like this come about. Are the number of beings or Buddhas finite in the Dharma realm? Because we are asking the wrong question. So from the people have asked the Buddha before, for example, like, is the Buddha, does a Tathagata exist? And then does Tathagata exist after death or not exist after death? Or for example, the Buddha talks about how living beings are sustained. And then there's a monk who asked the Buddha, he said, Buddha, who takes the sustenance? Then the Buddha said, oh, that's not a valid question. Then the Buddha explained, he says, I don't say taking sustenance, because if I were to say someone taking sustenance, there would arise the question of who taking sustenance. But the Buddha said, but who is not a valid question. So it says, I don't say that. So what the Buddha does is, the Buddha says, the question you should be asking is from what as a requisite condition comes sustenance. So what the Buddha is trying to point to, he says that the way our mind works, the thinking mind that we use, this mind that we think is us, the mind that has emotions like happiness, when someone scolds you, you feel hurt or anger, and all these corresponding thoughts. This mind is like a computer program. The consciousness only arises when there is a corresponding sense object or a thought that comes up. If not, there's no consciousness at all. It's it's a conditioned phenomena. It's just a process. So if you want to learn more, there are many sutras, and the Abhidhamma explains in great detail, which is personally I find very boring. But it explains exactly how the mind works. And when you can, when you, through your meditation, as in the Heart Sutra, it says when Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara was practicing the profound prajna paramita, in other words, he was meditating, and he broke through the 5 skandas, he saw that all things are, let me see my memory. When Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara was practicing the profound prajna paramita, he eliminated the 5 skandhas and saw that all things are empty. Then the text goes, there's and he left all suffering and difficulty behind. So when your wisdom arises, you no longer confuse yourself with your body and mind. It's very hard to understand because we have no frame of understanding. The only good example I can think of is a dream. When you're dreaming, you're confused. When you wake up, then you realize. So Kuan Yin in the in the Heart Sutra woke up, and then he realized he wasn't dreaming anymore. Then who he thought he was in the dream wasn't actually him. And then all that suffering that comes with it is gone. So the sutra goes on to say, no eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body or mind, no sight, sound, smells, taste, objects of touch or consciousness, no feel of the eyes up to feel of mind consciousness. What it means is that when you break through your skandas and your wisdom opens up, Shufu says, when you see your original face, your reality is beyond that reality is beyond our ability to understand. It is beyond our scope of experience. It's beyond our mind. Yeah, it lies beyond. It's beyond language. There's no discrimination. So they call it empty, not because it's empty. No, it's actually wonderful existence. when the first time you have that state, you will never feel more like you than ever before. It's weird to say that, but that's how you feel, because there's no more distortion going on. There's no more ignorance obscuring your true nature. So you see your true nature for the first time. Yeah. Let me see where I was going with this. But it's a state that cannot be expressed through language or through concepts within this mind. Yeah, it lies beyond. That's why it's called emptiness. It's empty of anything that we can conceive of. Yeah. So that's one way to understand the number of beings or Buddhas finite in the Dharma realm. That very nature of the question is based on a false assumption. Okay, that's a complicated answer to a simple question. And so that's one way of looking at this question. Okay, the second way of looking at this question is through the Avatamsaka Sutra. All right. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it says, or the Flower Adornment Sutra, says that living beings are infinite. In fact, that's one of the vows. That's one of the Bodhisattva vows. The 4 Bodhisattva vows are: living beings are limitless or infinite. I vow to cross them over. So from the point of view, there are limitless living beings. Okay, and that's true. Okay, when you become a bodhisattva or become awakened, you will realize that living beings are limitless, and there are ways to understand that. Okay, both viewpoints, like I said, the fact that we ask the question based on a false assumption, as well as the fact that living beings are limitless, both are true. It just depends on which vantage point you're looking at. Okay. So from the Avatamsaka Sutra point of view, the question about whether Buddhas are infinite, apparently they are infinite Buddha lands. Yeah. It's not a finite number. And there's a very easy way to understand why is infinite or why is not fixed. Because you, okay, and when I say you, I mean every single one of you, whether you're listening to this right now, or you're going to listen to this on YouTube, or in the future, maybe 10 years from now, in the future, you will become a Buddha. So you will add one more to the count of Buddhas. Okay. Why are both viewpoints valid? Well, because the Buddha's teaching is not on no self. Okay, that would be nihilism, which is a wrong view, but on not self. Okay, so we mistakenly think that our body and mind is us, but it doesn't mean that there's no agency. Okay, because when you awaken, or when you're not a Buddha yet, okay, but there is an agent, there is someone, maybe someone is the wrong word, but there is a consciousness. It's not a soul, okay, don't mistake soul with consciousness. There is a consciousness that carries intention, that makes choices to save living beings, to carry on the Bodhisattva vows, the Bodhisattva precepts, all the way up to Buddhahood. Okay, there is that agent. But that agent, when they're awakened, unlike us, does not make the mistake of identifying the self with the skandas. I don't know if that's a bit too much. Okay, all right. So there is not self. From our point of view, there is the Buddha's teaching of not self, because we mistakenly identify the self as our body and mind, or one or more, or the greater. In fact, in the Brahma, there's a sutra called the Brahmajala Sutta. It is not the Brahmanet Sutra. which is there are two Brahmanet sutras. Okay, this is the Theravada, in the one that's contained in the Theravada Sutra. In the Brahmanet or Brahmajala Sutta, the Buddha shows how this mistaken view of the five skandhas, how someone, okay, who mistakes the five skandhas for the self, the Buddha outlines 62 different wrong assumptions that has to do with that. Either identifying with the self or in this way or that way. But the 62 is just a broad category. There's actually more. Yeah. So for someone who's awakened, they go beyond these 62 possible wrong views. So there's still an agent, there's still someone with the intention to become, there's still someone carrying out the vows all the way to becoming a Buddha, but it's not the ignorant, unawakened being who mistakes the five skandhas for the self. Okay, I hope I'm trying to make that clear. Yeah, this is one of those things that are a bit tricky to explain and to understand, because I don't get many chances to explain that in that way. Okay, so are the number of beings and Buddhas finite in the Dharma realm? No, infinite. Okay, you come to the temple, the Mahayana temple, there will be the four vows. Living beings are limitless. I vow to cross them over. Afflictions are inexhaustible. I vow to cut them all off. Dharma doors or practices are immeasurable. I vow to learn them all. And then number 4 is the Buddha path is unsurpassed. I vow to realize it. Okay, one way of looking at the word limitless and inexhaustible and immeasurable is, number 1, it cannot be known by our mind. Our mind right now, because we are clouded by ignorance, it lies beyond the scope of our mind. So that's one way of understanding what limitless is. Okay. Another way of trying to get to terms with the word limitless or limitless living beings is that in terms of their nature, in terms of their personality, they are all different. At every single thought moment, they keep on changing. So even for someone who is, say, you say this person is like this in this moment of time, from the point of view of Buddhist psychology, say Abhidharma or Yogacara, at every thought moment, they are different from one moment to the next. We can't see it, but if you say the person that you meet today, compared to that same person you haven't seen 5 years ago, 5 years ago and now is different, different person, not just in terms of body, but personality as well, in terms of the things that they know, the experiences that they have gone through, So even in one person, their nature is kind of limitless because they're always changing. Okay. Then you compound that with all the different people. And then by the fact that we keep on getting reborn and reborn and reborn, then you understand why the word limitless is used. So how do you, although living beings are limitless, you vow to cross them over by learning the different Dharma doors, by learning the different practices. That's why we vow to learn all different practices. Why? Because each practice is suitable for each particular nature or person. You can say that. So you can learn the nature of living beings by, when you get awakened, you learn your own nature. It is through your own nature that you realize, all living beings are kind of the same, because although they're different, but they're kind of the same because we are all united by greed, anger or hatred or animosity, and ignorance. All three. We are all, you could say, all the mental illness that all living beings suffer come from the same pool of viruses or bacteria, or viruses, I think. All created by these 3 viruses: greed or desire, hatred or anger or animosity, and ignorance. These 3 viruses combined create all kinds of illnesses of mankind or living beings. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. I had a thought in my mind. Okay, no mind. If it's so important, I'll remember it later. Okay, so let me see, what else did I miss out when it comes to living beings, finite or infinite? Okay. Okay, next question. The Four Heavenly Kings. Why do you need the heavenly guardian warriors to guard the Buddha when clearly the Buddha is above all, and why four? Okay, you know what? Just before this lecture, I remembered that I gave a when we talked about the heavens, the four great kings were spoken before. So I'll quickly show you all, share with you all the slides from her lecture many months ago. So who are the four great kings? Okay. In the sutra called the Chatu Maharaja Sutta, okay, so four great kings come from the four heavens of the four kings. That is their heaven. This heaven is the heaven that's closest to earth, apparently, geographically, as well as location. It is located, I think, at the top of Mount Sumeru. So they're closest to us. So what one of the roles that the four great kings does is on the 8th day of the fortnight, the ministers and counselors of the four great kings wander about the world. So it's kind of like they're like the human world, just that they have life a lot better, but there are officials there and all kinds of duties and ministers and work to carry out. And one of the things that they carry out, apart from governing the heaven and earth, is on the 14th day of the fortnight. Is the ministers, they come down and they record down all the good and bad things that we do. Okay, and then on the 14th day of the fortnight, their own sons come down to wander around the world. And then on the 15th day, okay, the four great kings themselves come to earth, thinking hopefully most humans are paying due respect to their parents, ascetics and Brahmins, honoring the elders in their families, observing the sabbath, that means hopefully the 8 precepts, staying awake and making merit. Staying awake means hopefully you're practicing meditation. So this is why, like in the Taoist culture, on the 1st and 15th of the Chinese lunar months, they are vegetarians. So they think that, on this day, people are paying close attention to me, so I better be good. So they observe a vegetarian diet. Then, wait, let me see, why do I have this? Okay, let's move forward from this slide. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Why am I having this? Looks like I'm not. Okay, hold on. Okay. Let me end this slideshow. I'm sorry for the confusion, because I have another slide to explain who actually are the four great kings. And let me see. I have to find that slide. 79. Okay, got it. Okay, so if you look at your screen, that's a picture that you should find familiar. That shows where human beings are. Okay, it's like a cake, right? So the bottom cake is where you don't want to be, because that's where the hells are, all the way up to the bottom tier, second, third, and the lower of the fourth is not where you want to be at all. Okay, you want to be on the top of the cake, which is where human beings are, at least. Actually, you don't want to be there, you want to be higher. So where's the higher part? That's like the decoration. And if you look at your screen, the four world guardians, that's where four world guardians actually refer to the heaven of the four kings. All right. So that's where we are talking about right now. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to skip this. Okay, why are they called the Four Heavenly Kings? There's one king for each direction of Mount Sumeru. So one to the east, west, north, and south. That's why there's four, because there are four continents. And As to why it's like that is, I don't know, it's just apparently just like that. Okay. Or then Shufu says, if you were to go into detail, this discussion will never end. So there you go. Someone must have asked Shufu the same question. Okay. So it says, how long is the lifespan of the beings in this heaven? They have a lifespan of 500 years, but that's not the same as 500 years on earth. One day and night in that heaven is equal to 50 years on earth. So Shufu says, figure it out. How many years on earth is 500 years in the heaven of the Four Heavily Kings? So anyone who's trying to calculate, all right, their lifespan is equivalent to 9 million human years. Okay, 9 million human years. And I have a very funny story to tell later if I have time. Okay, so 9 million years. It says like the higher sensual heavens, the principal cause for one to be reborn in a company of the four great kings is said to be generosity and morality. Just keep the 5 precepts well, be generous. That means don't be selfish, and your chances of being born there is high. It says, however, this being the lowest of the heavens, it becomes the destination of a person who gives with a self-seeking mind, thinking only of the reward to be enjoyed in the hereafter. The happiness of even the lowest devas is said to make kingship among humans appear miserable by comparison. So there's no comparison. You may have the best life on earth, but compared to the lowest ranking God in the heavens, there's no comparison. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to just quickly not go through this. Okay, so this heaven is ruled by the Four Heavily Kings, who are also known as protectors of the world. The names of these gods are really more like titles of an office, because when one of these passes away, a new one takes his place. And they are appointed by Chakra or Shaka, the king of the Triumph Trimsha or the Tamam Timsa heaven, the heaven above the heaven of the four kings. And these four kings, they each rule over a race of beings who serve as their army and retinue. Okay, and when Shakyamuni Buddha was in his mother's womb, they were his guardians, and upon his birth, they were actually like the midwife. You know, they presented the baby to Lady Maya or the Buddha's mother. Okay, so the question of why the Buddha needs protection is no, the Buddha doesn't need protection at all. It is out of reverence and respect to the Buddha that they protect, so-called protect the Buddha. Yeah. So it's not like bodyguard. It's like, say, bodyguard for a Kung Fu master. You know, the Kung Fu master doesn't need any bodyguards. But what the bodyguards actually do is, you know, is like you go out with someone, you like your grandmother, you know, your parents, you won't let them carry heavy things. You know, you will carry things for them. You will carry their bags for them. You would do things on their behalf. Why is, you know, like I said, love, respect, reverence. Yeah. So it is out of that they so-called protect the Buddha. When it comes, yes,
because I'm the one that asked this question.
Yes.
Where I was a little bit confused, is okay. I think I get it now. I think these four great kings are actually to protect the Dharma, right? They're there to protect the Dharma.
Yes, they are. I was going to get to that. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, where I was a little confused is, okay, apart from north, south, west, east, and apparently they have different personalities, and that's why I think it would take a whole lesson or more to explain, because I did try to look it up. Where I was really confused is, like you say, it's not for protection, it's for guarding, is for helping. So it's often very confused, maybe because of the visual. You're just showing that visual right now, JinHe Dharma Master. You're showing a visual of a guy that looks like a warrior. And that's where I'm like, why is he a warrior? And what are we fighting here? So that was what was going through my mind, because the visual don't ratify what you just said. Maybe you can help me here.
Okay. Well, in terms of the actual appearance, they are very stately. They are very okay. They would be more handsome than any human being with proper features. This is what you are seeing right now is a Chinese interpretation of what they will look like. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
one.
but they have weapons, and
Yes, yes.
and yeah, and that's the part that I'm getting a bit confused, because if you walk into a Buddhist temple today, you will see weapons on the left and the right and whatever, and you
Yes.
have these warriors with weapons, and so I'm
Okay.
like, huh? You know, what do you need them?
Because they actually do battle. Okay, so this heaven of the Four Kings and then the Triumtrimsha heaven where Lord Chakra is, they are very similar to the heavens or the Greek gods, you know, where the gods fight with the titans. That actually happens. So each of the Four Heavenly Kings, they look over a particular race of beings who are very fierce. So for example, this King of the North, which is Vaishrawana, that's his name, which means he who hears everything. He is king of the Yakshas and the Rakshas, which are fearsome creatures. So you can't be the king of fearsome creatures if you do not understand their nature. So in order for them to listen to you, you know, that's why they have this fearsome appearance. So there's a very, very interesting story, okay, about how the Asuras or the Titans, I guess Titans is the English equivalent. The Asuras used to live at the top of Mount Sumeru. And what happened was Lord Chakra, so the Four Heavenly Kings also helped Lord Chakra battle the Asuras. And the Asuras were tricked into drinking beer, heavenly beer, and they got drunk. And when they got drunk, all of them were tossed out from the top of Mount Sumeru. I'm not sure if it's the top of Mount Sumeru, but you know, the principle is they were tossed out of where they were, and they landed at the base of Mount Sumeru where there was sand. And when they woke up, at first they thought that they were back in their home, but actually not. So there's this endless battle between the Asuras or the Titans with the Lord Chakra and the Devas of the Four Heavenly Kings. So it's very much like the stories that we get from Greek mythology about the different gods, to the extent that Lord Chakra, his wife, is actually the daughter of one of the Asuras. One of the King Asura's daughter is the wife of Lord Chakra. And there's a lot of drama going on. And there's a lot of detail, very funny jealousy and all kinds of drama going on. So the heavens are very much like the human realm. They still have anger. There's a lot of fighting going on, and it's not pure in that sense. Yeah.
Okay. So this changes my whole perception of what heaven is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
I didn't know they were warring up there. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of battles and jealousy and yeah. So and the Asuras are always trying to get back into their heaven, but they can't because it's guarded by Lord Chakra, aided by these Four Heavenly Kings. Yeah, so there's a lot of drama going on. So this is one of them, and then this is another one of them. You know, I won't go more because we're running out of time. So we can, Isabella, you want to know more? I can show you. I can tell you which YouTube
Yes, please.
to visit. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me see the comments. Okay. Let me see. Ron says, okay. So Ron says, Ten Cakra Sutra, the Buddha strictly teaches that one must first study the two vehicles before hearing and studying the great vehicles. Okay, I'm not familiar with this sutra, but I understand the principle. The principle is the Mahayana sutras were spoken to people who already knew the Theravada sutras. So if you look at the difference between the Theravada sutras and the Mahayana sutras, The Theravada Sutras have very straightforward instruction, and everything you need to end birth and death and to uncover your wisdom comes from the Theravada Sutras. But what happens when that's done? Then you move on to, like, say, the Prajna Sutras. So the Prajna Sutras will tell you the result of breaking through the 5 skandas, but it doesn't tell you how, because you're already supposed to know how if you're reading the Prajna Sutras. So the danger is, and this is just from my own observance, you can see this, you can try to see this in yourself or in the Buddhist world. There's a danger if you only study the Mahayana Sutras without having an understanding of the how-to or the instructions from the Theravada Sutras, that Buddhism becomes the Chinese, at least in the Chinese Buddhist world, or okay, I can't say Chinese Buddhist world, okay, that's not right, because from my experience, okay, from my personal experience, myself, not other people, there's a danger that it becomes a Chinese version of Christianity. There's a danger that you think that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will save you. It becomes by asking for help for salvation, instead of going back to understanding that it is all about cause and effect, and it's all about transformation of the self. So I find that understanding only the Mahayana Sutras without the Theravada Sutras, there's a lot of faith going on, there's a lot of belief in the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas, but there's very little understanding to back up the belief. That's my personal opinion. And then I find that only the Theravada Sutras, without the Mahayana Sutras, there's no, it's difficult to sustain oneself in the practice. Because when you only do it for yourself, you follow your own whims and fancies. If you feel like doing it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. Like I said, I'm only speaking from my, based on my personal experience, my personal understanding of first only learning the Mahayana Sutra, and then later learning what Shufu had to say about why we should not disregard both. And then when I learned the Theravada Sutras, then I realized what I was missing. And that's why in the, like, say, a very short sutra, like the Amitabha Sutra that we recite every day in the monastery or on alternate days, it talks about the 37 wings of enlightenment, but it doesn't describe them in full. It talks about the 4, I think, like the 4 powers, the 7 bodhi shares, and so on. It says, and so on. And that so on, that little sentence actually contains all the teachings of the Theravada Sutra, the Theravada canon, you know. So that's why when in my lectures, I try to combine as many sutras from both Theravada and Mahayana, because I don't see a distinction between that. Yeah. I think if anyone has a distinction, they have to look at their own biases and attachments. And I think to say one is better than the other, or one is right or one is not right, or, you know, I think would be trying to say that they know better than the Buddhas or the patriarchs. That's my personal opinion. Yeah. But it's hard to talk about this. Only someone, you have to investigate both and investigate it deep to form your own conclusion. Until then, it's just someone say this, someone say that, you know. Until then, it's just discrimination going on. It's not from actual experience. So for anyone who's interested, I would say before you form an opinion, or you listen to anyone, including me, investigate both the Theravada Sutras and the Mahayana Sutras before making up your mind. All right? Okay. Yeah.
May I say something?
Yes.
Where I got from this this quote, I mean, that I found was that, you know what, I think there's a lot of good stuff in the Theravada, the study of the two vehicles, because you come into contact with the principles of Buddhism, you know. And I mean, it's more. I mean, the fact that I don't read Chinese, you know, puts me at a disadvantage. I mean, for us, because there's a lot of, I think, a lot of literature in Chinese that explains a lot of things that are not available in English. You know, all you have in English is, you know, as a beginner, you only have what the Earth Store Sutra, the Medicine Master Sutra, and maybe a few other, you know, that, but they're pretty high up, you know, and it's hard to parse out, you know, what the principles are, you know, in a lot of this stuff. But from attending this class, I mean, I see like a lot of the I get a lot more flavor of what the principles are in Buddhism, you know.
Yeah, so thanks, Ron. Yeah, for bringing it up. I will take a look at the sutra. What makes it a bit confusing is that many of the Mahayana sutras, they will say things like, don't follow like the sound hearer vehicle, the Shravaka vehicle, or don't, or to that effect. I don't have the precise wording in my memory, but to that effect, it seems to suggest that we should not read the sutras or the two vehicles. But actually, in spirit, all it just say is, don't forget to save living beings. That's what it's trying to say. The translation may be off, or the understanding may be off, but my personal understanding of it is trying to tell people, it's not saying don't go and study the sutras, it's saying don't save only yourself, save all living beings, because all living beings have been your parents. If you don't save them, who will? That's all it's saying. Okay. All right. So Ru Zhang has a question about the 50 skanda states in the Shurangama Sutra. Okay, one way to understand this is very simple. I mentioned before, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind is the only way we can measure our world. All right? The 5 skandhas is the only instruments that we have to interact with the world. So if your 5 skandhas are deficient, for example, if you're blind or colorblind, you see less of the world is less to you. There are certain things that are missing in your world. For a deaf person, sound is missing. So their concept of the world is different from, say, someone with their full senses. All right? Okay. Now, there are animals, all right, with different skandhas than us. Some animals can hear a lot better than humans can. Some animals can see things sharper, or they can see different colors. Even insects, all right? Insects can see ultraviolet and other things that human beings cannot see, all right? Eagles, you know, from like how many miles from the top, they can look and they can see their prey and just, how you say, zoom in from so high up, just based on the eyesight alone, which we can't do, you know. So when we meditate, all right, our skandhas start to break down. So to the ultimate would be Kuan Yin Bodhisattva in the Heart Sutra illuminated the 5 skandhas. That is the ultimate. But along the way, okay, as our 5 skandhas, our relationship with the 5 skandhas change, our relationship with the world changes. We start to, depending on the individual, see more, hear more. You know, the heavenly eye might open to different degrees, for example. So the 50 skanda demon states are to warn us that when these things happen, they are just a normal, when you're walking this path, these things are bound to happen. Don't get distracted. Don't think that you're a big deal. Don't buy into your own ego. Why? Because these things will seem really, really special. Why? Because they will be out of this world. They will be things that you have never experienced before. They will be very, very special the first time you encounter them. And if you don't have any wisdom or a good teacher to hold you back, some of it may be very mundane. It's just you're just creating conditions for your past karmic seeds to arise. So as your memories arise, they just come from your mind. That's it. There's nothing special, and there are a lot of stories which I won't go into today. Maybe next week I can go into. But because it is beyond your scope of reality, you think that, oh, I'm a big deal now. So it's not the state or the encounter, whether it's genuine or not, that is the problem. The problem is when you get attached to it, when you think it's a big deal. That's where the problem begins. Because when we walk this path, we are trying to discard our mistaken assumption or attachment to the 5 skandas. So when things start happening, which is supposed to happen because we are breaking down our skandas, and we get further attached, we're just creating more trouble for ourselves. Doesn't make sense. It's against, total, how you say, you're just doing the very thing you are trying not to do, out of ignorance. But because some of these states are truly wonderful, they show you things or you know things you never experienced before in your life, you start to think you're a big deal. So the whole 50 skanda demon states is to give a general idea, a principle as to what can happen. For everyone is different. And as these things happen, the Buddha is explaining, they just come from your own self-nature. Don't get attached. Just move on. So on your way to Disneyland is the ultimate destination, is the happiest place on earth. Don't get distracted by Donut Land. No, don't get distracted by some cheap imitation amusement park, with rides that can kill you. Don't get distracted by the largest ball of rubber band in the world. Why? Because when you finally if you get distracted, you'll never make your way to Disneyland, or you just delay your stay. So people are so ignorant, that they go to a lousy amusement park and they think, oh, I don't need to go to Disneyland anymore. I've reached my destination, or I don't need, this place is so nice, I don't need Disneyland anymore. So the 50 skanda demon states is to warn people against that. Is to remind you that the whole reason you're practicing is be ultimately be unattached to your skandas. So as your skandas break down, wonderful things are going to happen. But if you understand, then you won't, you just ignore it. That they're just from your own self nature. You just move on. If not, you never get to Disneyland. Okay, so that's the principle of the 50 skanda demon states from the Shurangama Sutra. So once you understand that, then you can go back and reread that whole chapter. Okay, so there's a Te Uiwa says the Four Heavly Kings are attendants to the Buddha and protect the Buddha Dharma. Yes, they're attendants to the Buddha. They help the Buddha a lot on the journey. Not that the Buddha needed help, but they were there. And they, in terms of the temple or the monastery, yes, they do protect the monastery. So technically they're at the 4 corners of the monastery to protect they and their retinue of fearsome creatures. Like the one is the king of Rakshas and Yakshas. The other one are kings of Kubandas and the hungry ghosts. The other one is king of the Gandharvas and what is known as Putanas or stinky ghosts. And then the other one is the king of dragons and a type of ghosts that eat flesh. Yeah. So they and their retinue help protect the temple. Okay. So the Buddha will not need their protection, but other practitioners certainly do. Yeah. The way temple, the way place the temple does. Okay, I've gone beyond time. I'm so sorry. Okay, what is the purpose of the 42 hands and eyes? The 42 hands and eyes is a practice that belongs to the sacred school. Why is it called sacred? It's called sacred because when you practice and you get the results, only you know the results. Other people are not aware. So that's one way of understanding sacred. It needs to be transmitted. You can't learn it on your own. Okay, you need a teacher because only a teacher can tell if you are ready. It's like meditation. If you are full of greed and anger and you want to practice meditation because you want to gain spiritual powers, a good teacher will say, no, not you right now. You go and bow or you go and do something else. Go recite sutras. Don't sit in meditation because you're not ready yet. So that's part of the secret school process. Okay, what does the 42 hands and eyes do? It enables you, if you really want to save living beings, it gives you certain meditative practices whereby if you do it well, you can get, certain insights into the nature of your own mind. And then you learn, remember I talked about the living beings are endless. Why? Because the nature are endless. You learn more about your nature through these practices because they help focus your mind in certain areas. And when you can do that, then you are better equipped to help living beings. Okay, so that's behind the 42 hands and eyes. Whether someone should take 42 hands and eyes or not, no one can tell you whether you should. Is encouraged if you have the opportunity. But most people who take it kind of know why they want to do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. I left out answer to question number 3 was, number 3 is understanding dedication or transference or merit. Okay, that one we can keep for another time, next week probably. Okay. All right. So Ron, thanks for looking up Vaiduryana Buddha. You can share in the next class if you want. Okay. And then when we are bowing, repentance, should we be mindful of the Buddha that we are bowing to, or should we remember, be mindful of the unwholesome deeds we need to repent and reform, or both? Okay, Ron, we'll keep that for next week as well. So next week, maybe we'll do a hybrid. If I can finish my papers in time, then we can do a hybrid. If not, then maybe we just do another Q&A if you all have more questions. Okay, for now, let us dedicate merit. Okay, thank you everyone for your questions. I really enjoy getting questions because that is one way that I can learn as well. Sometimes I'm too much into the Dharma and I don't know what people have in mind. Okay. And also I don't know if what I know is correct. So your questions are very useful. Okay, dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Noble Master. Second bow. Third bow. half bow. Okay, everyone, Amitofo, and we'll see you next week.